All right, y'all, what's going on? Welcome to the Monday Night Live stream. There we go. What's going on, y'all? Hit that like button as y'all coming on in. This is going to be a good one tonight. We're going to be talking about the fully raw approach. Right? It's all about strength, vigor, growth. What's the order that I put it in? Strength, growth, and vigor. Three of the things us fellas like the most, right? How y'all feeling tonight? Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me clearly. Let me know if I'm sounding good. Ladies, this is important to know if you are married or have a male significant other who they may be struggling a little bit or perhaps have an interest in optimizing the male health, right? And of course, fellas, I think every man should know this, what I'm about to talk about tonight, because this is extremely important to talk about. And for a lot of men, this right here can pretty much solve all of your problems, what I'm going to talk about tonight, as far as your health is concerned. All right. We're simple creatures in need of a simple solution. All right, we see some ones popping in here in the chat. I love it. I love it. Definitely. Yep. Drop kick that like button. Absolutely. Cali girl, what's going on? Good to see you in here. That's right. Definitely. And hit me up in the Discord too. Check in with me. Let's see how that progress is going. I'm going to be updating the meal plans in the High Raw Vegan Nutrition Guide this week. I have already updated the weight loss plan. I'm going to be updating the plan for high blood pressure, diabetes, and weight gain as far as muscle growth and all of that is concerned. So I'm going to be updating those and adding some hormonal balance ones as well. So I'm going to be adding a lot more variations and a lot more options to that plan. But in particular, this week I'm going to be updating the fully raw diet plans. All right, fully raw, no cooking required. So that's what I'll be working on for the High Raw Vegan Nutrition Guide with the diet plans and all of that in there. And if you want access to all of my guides, my courses, guides, training plans, all that kind of stuff, access to the member support group, as well as weekly member exclusive streams, that is in the 12-week mentorship. So there's a link to that in the description box below. All right, my schedule is packed airtight right now, so if you want to book a call with me, you may only be able to get in like next week or something like that. But in the 12-week mentorship, everybody who is currently a tribe member has direct access to communicate with me right there on demand. All right, and I will also be adding more times throughout the week where I will be in the tribe voice chat available to speak to folks. So I'm going to be adding more group mentoring sessions in the member support group on Discord. So a lot of cool things coming. Where's everybody tuning in from? How y'all feeling? Put a W in the chat if you're having a good week so far, if you're feeling good. D, what's going on? Good to see you. Killing the game as usual. I finally made it to one of your lives. There we go. Well, good to have you in here. I will do my best not to disappoint. But this is going to be a good one tonight. That's right, Miss Cali girl. Reach out to me. Look, we gotta, you know what I'm saying? We gotta get on a chat. Got some W's popping into the chat. Big shout out to you tuning in from Dallas. There we go. Look at these W's here. That's what I'm talking about. I had a Super Bowl night group coaching session with the tribe folks, and that was a good one, y'all. That was a wholesome chat. I appreciate that for everybody who tuned in on Sunday night. That was a good one. Big shout out to you tuning in from South Carolina. There we go. Cali Girl got 3 W's. That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely coming through with all the W's. We want all the W's. I'm going to be showing off a little bit of my grocery haul tonight, too. So I'm going to be showing y'all, just to give you an idea of the volume of food that you can really put down and what it takes, all right, to really improve things. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about intuitive eating. All right. Big shout out to you tuning in from New York. Finally booked a call with me. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Looking forward to talking to you. That's right. W's, make it count. Where am I based? I'm about to be based back out in Ohio. I'm currently in New York City right now, but being that I pretty much work online, I can work out of anywhere. Just need a solid connection and I'm good to go. For a day or longer? What you mean? What's for a day or longer? Do I got enough folks in here to start with the talk tonight? What we're gonna get into? Should I get started? Is everybody ready? We're all settled in. All right. Oh, the haul. Yeah. Nah. My grocery haul. It's for a few days. What I got right now. I gotta go renew and pick some new stuff up. But we getting there. It's enough to show for the stream tonight. So tonight we got to talk about eating a raw vegan diet to improve and optimize men's health. Right. Men's health is fairly simple. The problem is I don't really hear too often people talking about it in its simplest terms. We have all of these different suggestions for men's health. A lot of them is not really so correct, and perhaps a bit more complicated than it needs to be. So I want to simplify that tonight. Now, when we're talking about men's health, a lot of this is how you feel, where you store body fat, how quickly you build muscle, how well you sleep and recover, and erectile health, sexual health, right? These are some of the big ones. Now, statistically, if I remember correctly, 20% of men in their 20s struggle with erectile dysfunction. Low libido, low testosterone, excess estrogen, right? 40% of men over 40 experience these same issues. In every year, the likelihood of you having these issues increases. Now, this happens for a variety of reasons. Number one, too much fat buildup, not just subcutaneously, but also viscerally and inside your liver. It's too much fat storage. Number two is metabolic congestion. Congestion of your kidneys, your liver, your vascular system, right? Poor blood flow. And a lack of oxygen saturation, meaning your body doesn't efficiently absorb oxygen and use that for energy, right? So when you're trying to optimize for men's health, one of the best things that you can do to start right out the gate is have a diet that is largely geared towards improving blood flow, right? And the number one best way to do this is through getting adequately hydrated. Most men who are struggling with men's health issues are chronically dehydrated. And there's a big misconception where people assume that, well, I drink a lot of water during the day. I drink 48 or 64 ounces a day, or I drink, a whole gallon of water a day, and still having these issues. One thing that's very important to know is drinking a lot of water can actually be very detrimental, because when you're drinking a lot of water is going in, that water's coming out. But along as that water's coming out, what is also coming out are vital electrolytes that you need. You're getting a lot of vitamin C coming out. You're getting potassium coming out, right? You're getting magnesium coming out, these types of things. You're getting sodium coming out. And so drinking a lot of water, perhaps in a compulsive fashion, would lead you to having excessively low electrolytes. And this can contribute to you feeling fatigued and having worsened issues. So if drinking more water isn't the way to hydrate your body, then what is? Quite simply put, eating water-rich foods is one of the best ways to do it. Eating your water. Because you want your water paired with the nutrients. You want the B vitamins in your water. You want the vitamin C in your water. You want the potassium in your water, the magnesium, the sodium. You want these things in your water, right? The amino acids, right? The antioxidants. You want all these things in your water. You want a lot of it in your water. A few foods that come to mind are watermelon, cantaloupe, mangoes, soursop, grapes, oranges, grapefruit, cucumber, honeydew. Right? Very water-rich foods. Bananas, believe it or not. Bananas have a lot more water in them than you think. A lot of people have the right idea, but they say, well, you know what? I started juicing and I feel a lot better. And juicing works very well. And the reason why juicing works very well is because essentially you're drinking water that is jam-packed with nutrients. And that nutrients is hitting your bloodstream faster along with the water. So you're getting the energy faster. And you're getting the energy in a very simplified way where it's not contributing to a traffic jam, metabolic congestion. I'm gonna talk about metabolic congestion in a second, but essentially, like, let's say if every morning you were to juice a beet with the beet greens, you were to juice an 8-inch cucumber and a Granny Smith apple. Let's say a carrot, like a large carrot. You would juice that every morning. You would flood your body with vitamin C, beta carotene, arginine, citrulline, folate, and of course simple sugars, quercetin, all types of stuff that are very conducive to blood building: copper, iron, magnesium, all types of minerals, selenium, chromium, boron. Right, so pretty expansive list of nutrients that you can get out of just juicing that on a daily basis. Having also the available glucose in a simple form, like for example what you would get in fruits, and getting an abundance of it. That glucose actually helps to shuttle water into your cells to hydrate your cells. So not only are you getting the electrolytes and the water in your cells, but also the glucose, which powers your cells, warms up your body. So the oxygen mixed with the glucose creates thermogenesis. And that thermogenic energy also has cascading hormonal effects. And this is very, very important. It's essential, actually, to correcting your hormones and dropping body fat. So I put people on a raw vegan diet plan, very water-rich diet. And within a couple days, Start feeling better, sleeping better, having more mental alertness, more mental clarity. Start using the bathroom more frequently. Start waking up with morning wood. Right? Start becoming side sleepers. You know what I'm talking about? Because you get a little stiff in the middle of the night, and it might be a little uncomfortable. You might have to do some adjustments if you're sleeping on your stomach, right? So these new improvements and newfound rigidness right in the middle of the night will cause you to either sleep on your back or sleep on your side, right? That's a sign of good quality sleep. So aside from that juice, just having a carbohydrate-rich diet in general with a variety of the fruits that I just mentioned, and things like kiwis, strawberries, blueberries, cranberries, raspberries, peaches, plums, right? All these types of things, these water-rich foods with all this vitamin C and everything like that. Now, the more hydrated you are, the easier it is for your body to absorb oxygen. As a matter of fact, you can't really absorb oxygen without water. Right? So you need your lungs to be hydrated in order to breathe. Can't have too much water, right? Otherwise you end up with pneumonia. But you just need the right amount of water. So you have a water-rich diet, you're able to facilitate that. You might even notice some changes in your voice. Your voice might be smoother. Might have a better smooth tone. Right? Because if you deal with mucus buildup in your chest and in your throat, just fixing your diet could help to reverse that. Eating like this can even do wonderful things like reverse sleep apnea. I had people who, I've been coaching them for a while, and they came to me with sleep apnea, and they no longer have sleep apnea. Right? Now, getting into metabolic congestion, right? So we touched on the hydration part. Now we get into metabolic congestion. Because metabolic congestion is the thing that actually makes it difficult to lose weight. When I talk about metabolic congestion, the most simplest form of this, or an indicator of this, would be high blood pressure. High blood pressure is the most common form or the most common indicator of metabolic congestion. Right? High blood pressure, hypertension. That means that your system is under so much stress that there's this perpetual vascular constriction where your arteries are narrowing. Just create more pressure. And there's more pressure being created because your body is trying to force blood through your body at a higher rate. Because there's some stagnation that your body is fighting against. So your body is trying to create more pressure to get and to expedite the process of delivering nutrients to all of your cells at an accelerated rate. Because there's a bit of an emergency situation going on in your body. Right? You can also be dealing with chronic dehydration. If you're chronically dehydrated, your body would respond with that high blood pressure. Right? So the first thing that I talked about with getting hydrated, that's actually the primary thing to drive down your blood pressure. But it drives down your blood pressure because you're not just getting hydrated, but you're also flooding your bloodstream with all this vital nutrients that needs to get to your cells. So if you saturate your blood with these nutrients, with the glucose, with the vitamin C, with the B vitamins and all the minerals and amino acids and whatnot, if you saturate your bloodstream with these things, then this helps the decongestion. Because you don't need that super emergency velocity of nutrient delivery if you have more volume of nutrients in your bloodstream. So you get a steady flow of that nutrients going to your cells. That high blood pressure is like a way that your body tries to keep your cells from starving to death. Because if it takes too long for oxygen or glucose or any kind of nutrients to get to your cells can become damaged and die off. In your body, this may feel like aches, pains, numbness, tingling, neuropathy, edema, these kinds of things. This is what you can end up with if you have that poor circulation. So it may start as dehydration, then translate into high blood pressure, then end up as neuropathy, and then edema. Right? And this is why it's so important to be hydrated, so that you prevent all those kinds of things. Then we got blood pressure. Oh, you said that juicing help with the blood flow? Yeah. Yeah. So, aside from blood pressure, we then have blood sugar. High blood sugar. This is another sign, right? Hyperglycemia. This is another sign of metabolic congestion. This metabolic congestion is not caused by sugar. Just because your blood sugar is high does not mean that you're consuming too much sugar. It's actually not what that means. Sugar doesn't really cause you to have high blood sugar or to be insulin resistant or diabetic or whatever. It's actually sugar. There's no scientific evidence that sugar actually causes this. The common thesis is people don't really talk about the high blood pressure in relation to hydration either. It's not really a thing that people talk about enough. Now, and the high blood sugar and the high blood pressure are often caused by the same thing. If we're talking about traffic jam and congestion, well, we have to talk about the coagulating, thickening agent that causes the congestion in your digestive tract and your metabolism in the first place, which is excess fats, mainly saturated fat. The primary culprit that will jam you up the most is cooking with oil. If you have high blood sugar, high blood pressure, one of the best things you could do is stop cooking with oil. Oil is just straight fat. It's just liquid fat. And your body will never be able to burn through oil and metabolize that for energy at anywhere near the rate that your body can metabolize carbohydrates, especially from water-rich foods like fruit. This is the reason, by the way, why you can't get fat from eating fruit. You can't gain body fat from eating fruit, not to any significant degree, right? And that's because of how fast your body burns through or metabolizes and utilizes the glucose in the fruit. It's not just the volume, it's the rate at which you use the volume. People like to talk about the raw amount of a particular nutrient, but they don't talk about the effect of time, right? So you have to factor in speed and time. How does your body utilize these nutrients in a given time window? Right? So the reason why the more fruit you eat, the easier it is to lose weight is because fruit decongests your metabolism. Because nutrition is this zero-sum game, which means more of one thing is necessarily less of another. So now imagine you're eating a fatty, oily food where it's got starches, it's got saturated fats, it's got oil, it's got breadcrumbs, all types of stuff. These things cause metabolic congestion. It takes a really long time to digest things like this. Your body doesn't even really know how to use this stuff for nutrients. So a lot of it just gets stuck in your gut. Because just because you eat a certain amount of food does not mean that your body digests and metabolizes that food. Your body doesn't metabolize and digest everything you eat. This is where the metabolic congestion comes from. So let's say you have a compromised gut. You've got a leaky gut or something like that. You've got gut damage. And every morning you're eating eggs, bacon, cheese. You're cooking with oil, right? You're probably having some toast or something, bread on the side or whatever. Maybe you're having grits. These are all dehydrating foods rich in saturated fat, cholesterol, and protein. This will hit your stomach like a brick, all right? Your body can't really metabolize and use that in an efficient way when it comes to speed. But the effects of eating like this over a period of several years is subtle. So by the time you're 30, 35 years old and you start having these health issues, well, it's because you've been eating like that for the last 5, 10 years. So you've been creating this metabolic congestion and gut damage over, 5, 10 years. So now you're feeling the effects of things you've been doing for years. It doesn't happen overnight. Metabolic congestion does not happen in a short period of time. Right? So a raw diet has the advantage because these are foods in a very simple form that's easy to metabolize. You put fruit in your body, and your body knows exactly what to do with it. It's very easy to metabolize. It's not really going to give your gut any kind of trouble at all. So you don't have a speed hindrance. It's not going to hit your stomach like a brick and just sit there. And we can measure this out mathematically, because I even had people who were diabetic and we put fruit in their diet. They get a decent blood sugar spike. Their blood sugar could spike up to like 180 or something like that. And then 45 minutes later, it's back down to a fasted blood sugar level of like 105, 90 or whatever. And their fasted blood sugar keeps trending down week after week after week when eating like that. To the point where the fruit stops even really giving them a blood sugar spike like it used to. So we can actually look at their blood sugar, their average blood sugar day to day, week to week, and we can look at it on a chart and see that downward trend. That downward trend is called decongestion. It's called metabolic decongestion. It's called improving insulin sensitivity. Right? Zero sum. I want to show y'all something too, by the way. So these things, I can eat like 3 or 4 of these a week. This is a cantaloupe. Looks like an alien egg. Now this whole cantaloupe is a beautiful orange inside. It smells amazing. It's sweet. It's beautiful. And this whole mango is like around 460 something calories. It's in between 11 and 13 grams of protein and 120 grams of carbs, something like that. And like 2 grams of fat. It's very minimal. Right? Loaded with all kind of vitamin C, potassium, beta carotene, folate, magnesium, manganese, the works. Right? What I tend to do in my diet is I would alternate between cantaloupe and bananas. So like today, I ate my 6 bananas. And the 6 bananas is like around probably around 700 and change calories. Maybe close to 800 depending on the size. Right? So that's around 130 grams of carbs or something like that. And I can eat like this in an unlimited fashion. And the beautiful thing about it is these water-rich foods loaded with fiber and all that kind of stuff, you can really pack them in and be satiated and feel full so that you can't overeat. You really can't binge eat bananas. You can't binge eat cantaloupe. You can't really overeat. The nutrient profile of these foods, it doesn't hit your dopamine receptors to the point where it causes you to engage in addictive behaviors. And this is why you can't binge eat. You feel full and satiated. You're fine. Now, your appetite will really kick in and you'll feel really hungry probably like an hour, hour and a half later, right? And then you eat it, then you eat a large portion again and you repeat. But the reason why you can feel hungry, you can eat this whole melon and then feel hungry like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours later. In my case, it's like an hour later or so, is because these are not congesting foods. They're in and out. Now, the reason why this is important as a man is because if you decongest your metabolism, you improve blood flow, you improve blood oxygenation, and therefore you also increase serotonin production. Glucose, oxygen, and serotonin drive down stress. As your stress gets driven down, vasodilation occurs, more blood flow, and then your body reprioritizes to other things. Your body is either battling stress or it's building. Your body is defending against stress or it's building new infrastructure, right? If you're dealing with poor sleep quality, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, all of these things are stressors. Your body is not going to build muscle and optimize fat metabolism when you're dealing with this kind of chronic stress from metabolic congestion. So muscle growth becomes very minuscule, fat metabolism becomes very minuscule, and even sleep quality becomes inhibited. And your motivation to do things, including have sex, falls off a cliff. Because your body has to defend against all this metabolic stress before it can start doing all of that other stuff. Like improving, building new stuff that's very energy intensive. And your body is taking all of your energy and prioritizing it for fighting against stress. Right? So, week over week over week, you have your fruits covered. You get metabolic congestion reversed in two ways. High blood pressure comes down, more oxygen, more water, better blood flow, lower fasted blood sugar. And as your blood sugar drops, your insulin levels drop. As your insulin level, because your insulin levels don't really need to be real high because you're a lot more insulin efficient. So your blood sugar comes down and then your insulin comes down because you don't need as much insulin because your blood sugar is not as high. And then as your blood sugars start hovering in between that 110 and 80 and your insulin levels are down there with it, your body can now optimize for fat metabolism. So you get a momentary blood sugar spike, and that blood sugar spike does things like incentivize your body to engage in muscle protein synthesis. Right? So eating fruit is actually very conducive to building muscle because it's this quick glucose, quick carbs, and that can go directly to the muscle tissue. And so now you have this surplus of energy that your body registers and can now use to build muscle mass. Not to mention muscle mass is 76% water. So basically water and glucose gets shuttled into your muscle tissue at a 3-to-1 ratio. Right? So this is how you get more muscle size through maximizing the amount of carbohydrates you eat to the point where you're eating like a minimum of like 300 grams of carbs per day. Right? Secondly, with those blood sugar spikes, that also incentivizes your kidneys to cause your body to retain more electrolytes. If your blood sugar is really low all the time, and let's say you're on a keto diet or a carnivore diet, you're very susceptible to having low electrolytes. This is the reason why carnivore diet influencers all over YouTube are always selling electrolyte supplements, because they are telling people to eat a diet that is deficient in electrolytes. They're not going to tell you that, but that's what that is. That's why they're always selling electrolyte powders. Right? And I have people who book calls with me and come to me all the time, and they're like, hey, you know, I tried the keto thing, I tried the carnivore thing. I was having vicious heart palpitations, I was constipated, I was getting eye twitches, muscle cramps, muscle twitches. My joints were starting to hurt. You know, I was having heart palpitations, waking me up in the middle of the night. My sleep was really suffering. I felt really dehydrated. I didn't feel good. I had really low energy, blah, blah, blah. This is the stuff they would tell me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, because your electrolytes are extraordinarily low and you're dehydrated. And you've been flooding your body with saturated fat. So you're congesting your metabolism because your body can't burn through all of that fat. Can't. Fat does not burn at a fast rate. If it did, we wouldn't have an obesity epidemic. Right? So hold on a second here. What's that? I don't see it yet. I'll see it when it pops up. Yeah, I don't see that yet. Oh, now I see. My dad is in the chat. Mr. Burnett. All right. So, and I'm gonna scroll up and answer questions and whatnot from the chat here. So, your body can't really burn through all of this saturated fat at a time. Now, the interesting thing is you get this weird conundrum. Now, let me back up for a bit. Just to give you an illustration. Carnivores only eat once every 2, 3, or 4 days. If carnivores eat on a daily basis, they become diabetic with all kind of health problems. You run into a storage problem. Now, let's say you have your organ tissues, skeletal muscle, and liver. Now, you don't really want to store fat to any significant degree inside muscle tissue. You don't want to store fat inside your organs. Like, you don't want to store all kind of fat in your pancreas or your heart or any of these types of things. This is called ectopic fat. This can make you insulin resistant. This can make you straight up diabetic. Okay. And this contributes to the metabolic congestion. And then if you store too much fat in your liver, you develop fatty liver disease. And then it starts to negatively impact your kidneys. All right. Also, there's a layer of fat over your organs called visceral fat. And things become really precarious for you if you start storing high levels of visceral fat. And men, on average, store 10% more visceral fat than women, even though women store 10% more body fat overall than men. So men have wider torsos and wider waists, and you're much more susceptible to having all of this excess belly fat because of that layer of visceral fat over the top. Because men don't really have the estrogen and progesterone to regulate that. Men don't particularly are not very well equipped to handle stress in a way that women are. Which is also why we on average we die earlier than women, right? So this is the problem that you have with fat. So the more, oil, saturated fat, things like that you have in your diet, you start developing blood sugar issues, blood pressure issues, these types of things. Kidney issues, all the most common stuff. Kidneys, fatty liver, high blood pressure, and diabetes. These are like the most common ones that men deal with. Gastritis are some of the more severe ones. IBS, right? And then Crohn's, colitis, these types of things. But these are buildups when you have a congested metabolism from eating this way. right? So when people are hawking like a carnivore diet and all this kind of stuff, you can do it. It might work for you a little bit, for a little bit until it doesn't, right? It's a matter of time. Remember, metabolic congestion takes several years to develop. Now, the interesting thing is, once you've developed metabolic congestion, once you've developed a metabolic disorder, even if you reverse the metabolic disorder, you can redevelop that metabolic disorder a lot quicker than you did previously. And the reason for that, too, largely is because your body has already made the adaptations needed to facilitate those metabolic disorders. An example of that would be your body has the ability to make new fat cells, but your body does not get rid of the fat cells that are already in your body. So all of the fat cells that you currently have, you can't get rid of them. You can only shrink them. This is why people yo-yo up and down in weight. It's because you just refill those fat cells. They just balloon back up, but you can't get rid of them. You'd have to do like lipo or something like that to get rid of them. So, dealing with the stress issue. Matter of fact, let me show another one of my favorite melons. So this is the honeydew. More of a smoother flavor, more of a smoother melon, a bit softer, beautiful texture. And it's like this beautiful bright green on the inside. It's more of a milder flavor. I'm gonna go get a watermelon tomorrow. And the honeydew is a lot higher in vitamin C than the cantaloupe is, and the honeydew has a bit more carbs than the honeydew. But they're very similar in nutrient profile. But I think the cantaloupe has a bit more protein than the honeydew, so it's good to alternate between the two. Also, the way that the food looks give you clues, right? So, for example, walnuts, they kind of look like a nutsack, right? They look like a scrotum, right? It's an indication. Foods will often look like the organs that they're supposed to help rejuvenate or protect. Avocado, right? That's another one. Avocados kind of look like a scrotum, right? Avocados it's really good, fellas. It's a good source of your fats. Speaking of fats and metabolic congestion, there are fats that don't cause metabolic congestion, and those are polyunsaturated plant-based fats. And those are going to be nuts, seeds, and avocado. Those are the primary three fat sources that you get out of a raw diet. Now, I like to take the approach of adding at least 2 of these. 1 serving of nuts, 1 serving of seeds, and perhaps a whole avocado, depending on what your goal is. Now, a weight loss plan would look very different than like a muscle building plan. So, for example, if I put together a muscle building plan, I'm going to have more fats in that plan because the fats help to offset stress and improve your sleep quality. These fat sources in particular are very rich sources of magnesium and zinc, as well as copper and iron. Nuts and seeds and avocado. And those are vital for muscle recovery, immune defense, and sleep quality, as well as brain chemistry, mental health, and all that kind of stuff, and maintaining dopamine sensitivity. Now, the interesting for me with my approach to a raw vegan diet is it's mainly fruits, nuts, and seeds. You can add leafy greens, but leafy greens aren't exactly mandatory. And in fact, leafy greens may work against you depending on how much of them you eat. One of the lessons I learned when I was really packing in, I was eating like 8 cups of leafy greens a day. And one of the things that I realized is my gut started to hurt a little bit after eating these leafy greens. And when I cut the greens out, I felt better and I didn't have a distressed gut. The leafy greens require more stomach acid to metabolize. Right? And so you could just have this big volume of leafy greens in your stomach. So you have all this fiber expanding in your stomach, but your blood sugar's low. So it creates this feeling where you feel full but hungry at the same time. It's a weird feeling. I hate that feeling. And that's how I felt. Full stomach but hungry at the same time, but can't eat because your stomach's full with all these leafy greens. With the fruits, you don't really have that issue, right? You don't have that duality. The leafy greens are best in a high raw plan where you're having the leafy greens with cooked foods. But if you're doing a fully raw plan, you can have some leafy greens. Maybe like 4 cups is really enough as far as the leafy greens are concerned. Now, I'm not saying that you should avoid leafy greens. What I'm saying is not essential, right? I mainly only eat leafy greens if I'm adding a cooked meal into my diet. Now, an exception, though, would be if I'm having leafy greens with like avocado, nuts and seeds, diced onion, bell pepper, cucumber, things like that. That's when I'll have like a salad with more of the leafy greens there. But the leafy greens in particular work very well with your fats. And the leafy greens will have more of like your vitamin E, your beta carotene for vitamin A synthesis, and vitamin K, which are fat soluble. So when you have those things, when you have those fat soluble things with your fats, it's a good combination. Now, earlier I said one of the best things that you can do is avoid cooking with oil, but you can use cold pressed extra virgin oil and use that as a base for, let's say, salad dressings. That's fine. The cooking is the problem, though, because you make the fats toxic. When you cook them past their smoke point, when you apply heat to them, they become rancid very quickly. To make an illustration of this, oil typically comes in a glass bottle that's very dark on the outside, right? Or it'll come in like a tin can or something like that. And that's to protect the oil from light, because light in and of itself is enough to destabilize and denurture the oil and cause it to expire and go rancid. This is also the case with fish oil tablets or cod liver oil or whatever the case is. It's the same thing. And it can actually become really toxic if it's exposed to heat and light, which is why if you look in the instructions, they give you this warning label where it says keep it in a cool, dry place. Because the heat and the light exposure degrades the quality of the oil and makes it rancid. Now imagine when you're cooking with oil all the time. So, you know, everybody knows, oh, fried foods are bad, right? Fried foods, some of the worst things you can eat, absolutely terrible. The question is, why are fried foods so problematic? Is it just because what? Because the breadcrumbs? What's the problem with fried foods? It's because they're soaked in oil and then cooked. That's why it's the oil. Now, air frying doesn't produce the same negative effects. If I put a sweet potato in the oven and I bake it, it doesn't produce the same effects. But if I fry it in oil, now it's cancerous. Now it's bad for your blood pressure. Now it'll send your blood sugar up. And I've had diabetics, you know, where they cheat on their diet a little bit, and they had some, they ate something that was cooked in some oil, and their blood sugar right up. Immediate visceral response. They were like, "Damn, I didn't know it was gonna do all of that. It was just one meal." I'm like, you have no idea how problematic this is. So they learn, and they're like, "I'm not messing with that oil. I ain't doing no cooking with no oil." If you got high blood pressure or you got high blood sugar, you don't have no business cooking with oil. Absolutely not. And water and oil have a competing relationship, or water and fat. The more fat you have in your diet, the more dehydrating you get. And as a matter of fact, fat acts as a diuretic. You'll see people go on like a keto or a carnivore diet and they start getting real quick weight loss right in the beginning. And they're like, oh, I'm losing weight and whatnot. I feel great. Yeah, because you're getting dehydrated. Because your diet is all fat and protein. Now, remember what I said. Water, in order to hydrate your cells, it needs to be accompanied with glucose. Right? So glucose gets shuttled into your cells along with water at a 3-to-1 ratio. Right? So, for example, skeletal muscle tissue is 76% water. So, however much glucose you send to the muscle tissue, you're sending 3 times that in water. And that's how you get that fullness and that volume that's needed in order to create an anabolic environment and produce really strong, smooth muscle contractions. Now, if you cut all your carbohydrates off, well, you're now depleting, right? Because how is the water going to get shuttled into the cells effectively? They don't have the vehicle for it. Now, when you combine that with an electrolyte deficiency, you start losing water even more as your electrolytes deplete. Right? So you see things that I mentioned early up front. We're now coming back to that. So essentially, when it comes to optimizing men's health, we don't need a lot of fat. As a matter of fact, when it comes to eating fats versus carbohydrates, it's typically going to be at a 3-to-1 ratio. So if you're eating, let's say, 100 grams of fat in a day, you're eating 400 grams of carbs, or at least 300 grams of carbs. You don't really need to focus so much on protein. There's protein pretty much in all of the foods. Like, for example, the cantaloupe, there's a whole 11 to 13 grams of protein. The bananas, that's another, 6 or 8 grams of protein, right? However many I had. And then if I eat like a cup of almonds or something like that, that's another 25, 26 grams of protein. Then I eat a cup of, let's say, peanuts. That's another 26 grams. So I accumulate protein in my diet throughout the days. And this is not even adding any protein shakes or anything like that. But the thing is that if you have low libido and erectile dysfunction and all of that type of stuff, optimizing for protein is not really going to yield you the benefits you're looking for. Most men with libido issues, most men with erectile dysfunction, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and all of that already have a high protein diet. On average, Americans already eat a ton of protein as it is. So making sure that you eat a lot of protein is not the answer. If it was, you would have fixed your problems already. I'm not saying that I'm not going to be one of these people who says, oh, you don't need to eat protein at all. We don't need protein. You're never going to hear me say that. But what you will hear me say is you don't need as much protein as you think. The problem that you have with protein is the same problem that you have with fat. There's a time constraint. Your body can only use but so much of it at a time. You can eat a ton of protein, but the thing is that there's a time constraint. Just because you ate 130 grams of protein does not mean that your body is going to use all 130 grams of protein to build all these new cells and build all this muscle and bone tissue and all of this type of stuff. Most of the protein you consume, your body's not using it as building blocks. Your body's converting it into glucose through gluconeogenesis. Now, the interesting thing is that the more carbohydrates you consume, the less protein you need. Because as you increase your carbohydrate consumption, you get more muscle protein synthesis. Remember what I told you earlier, a few moments ago, where I said that the blood sugar spikes trigger muscle protein synthesis. Right? As a matter of fact, this is a well-known thing in the bodybuilding community. There are intra-workout shakes that people drink. And what it is, it's water with a scoop of maltodextrin. Right? And it's basically just carbs and water. And you got guys like these elite level bodybuilders who are trying to optimize for mass gain. And they'll drink shakes like this post-workout or even in the middle of the workout. I don't really think you should eat something like that in the middle of a workout, but I mean, hell, if you're juiced up enough and you're training long enough, right, you probably be a good idea to do so, right, in order to, you know, gain the necessary glycogen and glucose in order to power through the rest of the workout, right? If you're one of these maniacs training for 3 hours or whatever, however long people train. And drinking that water and maltodextrin is a way to refill the muscle glycogen stores and trigger muscle protein synthesis, particularly post-workout. Right, so it's like the rice, sweet potato, and oats. These are like the go-to carb sources. But maltodextrin hits the bloodstream quicker, right? So it's like a good anabolic shake right after the workout, right? So there's supplements that are geared towards achieving the result that I'm saying. The only difference is rather than just putting maltodextrin in water and drinking it, you eat fruit. Right, because I want the fiber and I want the nutrient profile of the fruit. I don't just want to slam back a bunch of free glucose. Right, but that illustrates the point. And you have bodybuilders who've been doing this stuff for decades. That's how old the science is as far as carbohydrates, muscle protein synthesis, and all that. This is not new information at all. You got like old school bodybuilders who've been doing this. Now, when you trigger muscle protein synthesis, you have all of these carbohydrates in your diet, your body has enough energy where your body doesn't need to convert protein into glucose because you already have enough glucose. You cut your carbohydrates too much, well, you need the glucose. So your body's either going to get the glucose from fat or it's going to get it from protein. But if you have a poor fat metabolism, then your body's going to break down excess protein and convert that into glucose. And protein is more thermogenic than fat. So it's more available to use for energy rather than fat. So a lot of guys, what they don't realize is in the pursuit of eating all this protein and cutting their carbs in order to build muscle, and they're not really getting any results, and they feel depleted and miserable, libido crashing through the floor, chest fat accumulation, this weird skinny fat thing going on, just a hormonal mess, and feeling stressed out and frustrated because you're not getting the results. And it's like, well, yeah, because you added in all of this protein into your diet and you cut your carbs to try to lose fat, and all you're doing is just you're using protein as a source of fuel through gluconeogenesis, but then your liver and your kidneys have to do all of this work in order to facilitate that process. Protein is very acidic. So the breakdown of protein into amino acids and then the expenditure of those amino acids is acid forming in the body. So you get more acid accumulation in your bloodstream and just all throughout your body, period. Now, your body absolutely needs to. It is paramount that your body maintains that ideal 7.4 pH balance. So your kidneys have to work harder to bring your pH balance back up. So if you're over leveraging the protein and you're putting all this stress on your body from training like crazy, essentially what happens is you're just putting more work and stress on your kidneys. Also, your prostate. Right? That's that spillover effect. You get cascading effects over to your prostate. And your colon. And your whole intestinal tract, period. And the more protein you get in your diet, the less fiber you get in your diet. So now if you reduce the fiber intake, you create the conditions for digestive congestion in your digestive tract. Right? So we got excess saturated fat. We've got things like gluten and all kinds of metabolites and acid shoved into the digestive tract. and it's sitting in there, slowly moving through your digestive tract over a period of like 36 hours. But then you're eating every day, so you never really fully empty your digestive tract because you just keep piling on every day. So you're eating on a daily basis, contributing to the traffic jam happening in your gut. Your body picks up to that gut distress. It may feel like gas, bloating, constipation, dehydration, chapped mouth, then erectile dysfunction, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, depression, anxiety, low testosterone, low free testosterone. Right? And these issues become worse and worse. Your sleep quality goes down the drain. This is why. Because remember earlier I talked about your body is either going to use its energy to combat stress, or it's going to use that energy and resources to build new bone mass, muscle tissue, hormones, and raise your dopamine sensitivity and kick on motivation so that you can go out there and talk to women and build a business and go and sign up for a marathon or lift heavy weights in the gym. All of that requires dopamine sensitivity. It requires serotonin. It requires this hormonal balance. It requires more adrenaline and all of this kind of stuff to have the necessary energy to be able to kick on and do those things. A big part of a man is you know, the need or the feeling to grab life by the horns. And you can't do that if you're stressed out and don't have the energy. Right? You can tell this is happening too by your posture. You start losing the curvature in your lumbar spine. As your gut health gets worse, you start losing your lumbar curve. And as you take on more anxiety and depression and your cortisol levels are elevated, your pec minor starts to get tight. And then the shoulders come up and they protract, and then the neck comes forward. And you get this posture here. And then you get the pooch, the belly out in front, and you lose the lumbar spine. Right? So you get all of this tightness up in here. And then once you're tight up in here in your thoracic spine, you start mouth breathing more. You get this slack jawed look. And then when you go to sleep at night, you're breathing through your mouth all night. And then what happens is you get poor oxygen utilization. You get all of this tightness. And then because you're tight and congested, you start getting mucus buildup in your chest and in your throat. And you can hear it when you talk. Right? And then the shoulders are up, and then you get the headache pain and tightness in the neck. And then the weight gain comes in. Because if you lose the lumbar spine and you lose the curvature in your lumbar spine, you start having gut health implications that get worse. And then the belly fat comes on, and then the visceral fat accumulates around the torso. Right? And then you become more susceptible to knee and hip pain. As a matter of fact, put a 1 in the chat if you've experienced this, if this describes you. If I'm describing you right now, put a 1 in the chat. Because I'm talking about the order of operations in which this happens. Put a 1 in the chat if this describes what you've been going through. So and I've been going on for a while breaking all this down. Is my chat frozen? Hopefully it's not. But yeah, so that's basically what goes on with your posture. All of this is all hormones and chemicals and everything like that. It affects every aspect of your life. It affects your personality. It affects your physical stature, your gut, your posture, everything. Right? And I'm explaining it like this so that you can understand how to fix it. Now, I've offered some solutions so far. which is the fruits, nuts, and seeds. It's like the primary things. Now, in real terms, brass tacks, what your macros would probably look like, it would look like somewhere along the lines of 10 to 15% protein, about 25, maybe even 30% fat, and the rest is carbohydrates. Right? So you may be getting around 900 or 1200 grams of carbs. You'd be getting around anywhere from 70 to 110 grams of fat. And then as far as protein is concerned, you'd be getting anywhere from, let's say, 60 to 90 grams of protein or so, right? These are like ballpark numbers. Of course, the numbers would depend on your body measurements, right? So are you a guy who's 5'8" or are you a guy who's 6'3", right? And then how much muscle mass do you have on you? And you want to eat according to how much lean mass you have on you, right? So there's a lot of guys out here who can easily get by on 40 to 60 grams of protein a day. And that would be more than enough because they don't have much muscle mass on them. And the first priority really is metabolic decongestion, right? Before you start jumping into, oh, I want to build all kind of muscle and gain all kind of weight and stuff, before you do all of that, you got to decongest your metabolic system first. So you got to turn up vasodilation, oxygen absorption, hydration, and all of that. You got to fix all that first. You got to improve your sleep quality. Exercise should be leveraged for things like improving your posture and then strengthening certain muscle groups. So for example, a guy, as you're training, one of the things you want to do is you want to train in a way where you train your body to extend at the thoracic spine, right? So not like arching your back and sticking your chest out, but raising the chest up, right? So here, and then focusing on lengthening the spine, extending thoracically, right? And then dropping the shoulders, strengthening your lats. And then opening up your hip flexors and strengthening your glutes. Improving your ankle mobility, improving your grip strength, right? These types of things. And these have specific hormonal and metabolic benefits. So like farmer's carries, deadlifts, barbell rows, pull-ups, overhead presses, right? Squats, walking lunges, these kinds of things. These are some of the best exercises that you can do as a man, right? And all of the muscles that I mentioned, essentially, they work on your strongest muscle groups, your grip, building your yoke, right? And, your hip strength. And having a strong, solid core with a strong posterior chain, hamstrings, glutes, strong back, strong neck, etc. And mobile, strong shoulders. So you definitely want to pay attention to your posture. Now, there's another posture profile for men, and that could be an exaggerated lumbar curve, tight psoas, and then the toes point inward, right? And you could be knock-kneed, right? So you want to pay attention to your knee alignment, which direction your toes point, if your hip flexors are tight and you have an exaggerated lumbar spine. If this is a posture that you have, chances are you've got a lot of belly fat. You store a lot of fat around your hips and thighs and your arms. This is high estrogen. So chest fat, belly fat, fat in the hips and butt cheeks and arms. This is high estrogen, right? And if that is the case, chances are, you're more than likely insulin resistant. Your cholesterol might actually be significantly high. That is the case for a lot of guys like that. In particular, that LDL is high. Right? Um, and so basically your best friend at that point is carbohydrates, simple, easily digestible foods. The good news is if you have an exaggerated lumbar curve, chances are you got some pretty good gut health. Your gut health is not that bad because usually as your gut health gets worse, you lose your lumbar curvature. You lose your lumbar spine curvature. Right? Your digestive tract is largely is directly connected to your lumbar spine. Right? So your intestines, colon, and all of that kind of stuff is connected to your lumbar spine. And then lungs and heart and stuff like that is more so your T-spine. And then your C-spine is pituitary, thyroid, things like that. Right. Also, T-spine is liver and kidneys as well. Right. So, all of your vital organs are connected to certain segments of your spine. That's why posture is really important. Right. So you can eat your way out, and diet is largely important, but also your training as well. Strengthening your grip is very good for your C-spine. The stronger your grip is, your shoulders come down. So if you have this going on with your shoulders up, as you strengthen your grip, your shoulders can come down, right? So strengthening your grip leads you for you to be able to better train and strengthen your upper back muscles, your lats and trapezius. And then also you will be able to relax and open up that the pec minor, right? Which is that clavicular head of the pec muscle. And that can open up your shoulders. And you can really start overhead pressing some really decent weight. And that translates into a stronger yoke and a less congested C-spine. So this right here is one serving of grapes for me. This is one meal of red grapes. All right. So in real terms, this right here could be like a lunch. So if you said, hey, Rem, what do you eat in a day? What I eat in a day would be this cantaloupe. I'm not going to put that on. This cantaloupe, the grapes, and these, right? Some tangerines. And that would be like most of my fruit for the day. Maybe not necessarily all of it, but most of it. And then I didn't show you all the bananas. And then the almonds, pistachios, peanuts, cashews. My nut of choice. And then I have the overwhelming majority. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. But my biggest meal, my biggest protein meal is going to be in the morning. And that's typically my overnight oats with hemp seeds. I'm a big fan of that. Overnight oats and hemp seeds. Another one could be like a hemp pudding, where it's hemp and flax with like sunflower seeds. You can use almond butter or peanut powder, things like that. Adding blueberries to it, that kind of thing. But it depends, right? Are you maximizing for size, muscle growth, or weight loss? If you're maximizing for weight loss, you don't really need to have so much of the nuts and seeds. You would want to prioritize more so of the fruits. But if you're trying to maximize for size or weight gain, adding those nuts and seeds in avocado is a great way to increase the amount of fuel that you take in. And that's really needed for sleep quality. When you're on a raw diet, you can eat a lot more. Right? Because, raw eating is very conducive to decongesting your gut, decongesting your metabolism. Right? And then this is one of my favorites right here, which is this black water here. It's not really black, it's just a really dark green. And that is liquid chlorophyll inside water. Chlorophyll is what gives green leafy vegetables its pigment, right? Chlorophyll is like a detoxing agent. It's like a cleaning agent for your body, right? If you have gut health issues, IBS, Crohn's, colitis, mold poisoning, whatever the case is, you need to cleanse your gut. You need some detoxification. Liquid chlorophyll is a really good option for that, right? So generally speaking, like one thing that would really get the job done is 48 ounces of water a day with 4 tablespoons of liquid chlorophyll, and drink that throughout the day. Right. Now, the nuts and seeds are very important, though, for a raw diet as well, especially for men, because of zinc. Zinc is vital to men's health. Zinc, selenium, copper, iron, these types of things. And these, you get these in great abundance in your nuts and seeds. So my top picks are hemp seeds, Brazil nuts, cashews, peanuts, almonds. Right, those are some of my top picks there. And that's also where you get your omega-3 and 6 essential fatty acids, which is important for your hair, skin, and nails. Right, so you're not losing all types of hair and whatnot in the weight loss process. Right, so those minerals are extremely important, so that you're also not going through andropause, which is menopause for men. All right. I think I covered a lot tonight. I think I got through a lot of it that I wanted to talk about tonight. I mentioned the fruits, the nuts and the seeds, the avocado, the minerals, the causes. We went through a lot tonight. Let me catch up with y'all in these comments. Let's see what kind of questions y'all got for me. You been eating oranges all day? Well, you got to diversify a bit more than that. But, you know, it's definitely you're getting an abundance of vitamin C, I'll tell you that. But you said it's something you're dealing with now. There you go. Folks, hit the like button. Like the stream if you like the stream. Oh, you said I was buffering. Oh. Uh-oh. Yeah. I mean, eating avocado by itself is fine. You know, you could just eat an avocado with a spoon, and then right after that, you know, you just eat a quarter cup of, like, you know, pumpkin seed kernels, roasted pumpkin seed kernels, and you're good. That's a good midday snack right there, or evening snack, I should say. People say eating too much fruit rots your teeth. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, you know what rots your teeth is not brushing your teeth and not practicing good oral hygiene. Interestingly enough, if you really want to maintain good tooth enamel and gum health, oil pulling with coconut oil. And you can do that once or twice a day. All right. So you can use a little bit of clove oil, or peppermint oil with coconut oil, and just slosh that around in your mouth for a few minutes, spit, and then brush your teeth. All right, I think I'm almost caught up. Does anybody have any questions before I wrap? Let's see, what was the question? Humble request to share some more raw fruits for better gut health. Pineapple. Pineapple has bromelain in it, which is good for gut health. Saturated fat is the cause, and unfortunately, everything else gets these myths that they are the problem, like fruit. Yeah, and you know, I wouldn't say that saturated fat is inherently bad, right? Because it's not. But eating too much of it is deeply problematic, yeah. How long have I been plant-based? 10 years. I've been plant-based since 2014. What are my thoughts for sinus congestion? A lot of what I talked about today actually helps with sinus congestion. Sinus congestion is an indication of excess acid production. So if you eat a less acidic diet and more alkalizing diet, that helps to clear up your sinuses. I used to have really bad sinus congestion. I used to have really bad sinus pain. I used to have seasonal allergies and all kind of stuff. I felt like I was hit in the face with a brick. It hurt bad. A lot of sinus problems are actually caused by bacteria. Also. Ooh, fun fact. Do not pluck your nose hairs. All right? Get a nose hair trimmer and trim your nose hairs. Don't pluck your nose hairs. Because if you pluck your nose hairs, you increase the risk of getting a bacterial infection in your nose. And that can actually contribute to a sinus infection. Fun fact. What about hay fever? Yeah, this works for that too. Having that raw diet. Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Juju, what's going on? Checking how you doing so far tonight? That's right. Check in with me on the Discord. Let me know how you going. How you doing? Yeah, that's right. That tofu scramble did a number on you. Oh, yeah. Catch up on that rest. Catch up on it when you can. Oh, celery juice is a good one too. But when you do the celery juice, you do just straight celery. And that's like the most potent way to do it. I'm all right, Juju. I'm hungry though. I'm tell you that. So when I get off the stream, I'm gonna go eat something. Y'all are on Discord. Yeah, for all of my Tribe by Noir members, we got a member support group on Discord. And that's where I communicate with everybody and we do our member live streams and all of that. Can you do a night like this for us ladies? Yeah, absolutely. Why would LDL be high on an animal protein diet? Significant increases in LDL is often a sign of oxidative stress. It's an inflammatory response. This is why, a lack of sleep, smoking cigarettes, things like that can drive up your LDL cholesterol. Right. There are habits, lifestyle habits that you can engage in that have nothing to do with food and still drive up your LDL cholesterol. It's because LDL is an inflammatory response. Right. So when they eat all of this protein and animal fats and whatnot, they're actually driving up their LDL because it's an inflammatory response. LDL is used as a buffer against oxidative stress, right? Cellular damage. And also, when you eat all of this saturated fat, your body needs to use that fat, right? So increases in fat and protein results in the increased synthesis of lipoproteins, and your body makes more LDL. It makes LDL a lot more than HDL, right? So the ceiling for HDL production is a lot lower, and LDL is a lot higher. Right, so that's why you have people will have like really high LDL and then low HDL. Right, increases in HDL is not an inflammatory response. Is tofu good to eat? Yeah, tofu is fine to eat. All right, y'all. Well, you know what? I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. If you want to jump on my 12-week mentorship, link to that is in the description. We're getting on there every week. We're doing live meal planning where I open up Chronometer, and we do daily meal planning. I take a screenshot of it, put it in the chat and all of that. We talk about training strategies. We go over video tutorials, meal prep. We talk about mindset, all kinds of stuff. Right? And you also get access to all of my courses, my high raw vegan nutrition guide that I update periodically, my training plans. I got video tutorials. I got recipes up, all types of stuff. Pretty much I set it up where you have everything you need to get started on your journey and start making some progress right there in that 12-week mentorship. So if you're interested in that, there's a link to that in the description. As far as personalized coaching, I am currently fully booked on that, so y'all gonna have to wait for some slots to open up to get on the schedule, but the 12-week mentorship is open. Right, so that's the runner-up. So having said that, folks, appreciate you for tuning in, and I will catch y'all next Monday.